Okay, so today I'm chatting with Vanessa Thornton, the most awesome bass player from the band Jebediah. Ness, thank you so much for joining us on the Bass Bass channel.
No worries, not only am I the most awesome bass player for Jebediah, I'm the only bass player for Jebediah.
That's very true, very true. And so let's kick off. You were 17 when Jebediah formed. Now, nearly 30 years later, not to give away your age, sorry about that, but 30 years, 6 albums, thousands of shows. Did 17-year-old Ness dream of this journey?
I'm actually a little bit older than the other guys. So I was 19 when Jeb started. Not going to give away my age though. But yeah, I just like it was just such a hoot. We were just having so much fun playing music, and we had very what turned out to be quite realistic goals at the start. Kev said, as long as we get a chance to play with UMI, like I feel like I've got everything I wanted out of this band. And I was like, as long as we get to play with Magic Dirt, then I've got everything I wanted out of this band. And that all sort of happened, you know, within the first year of playing gigs. So yeah, I mean, we could have called it quits then.
And you've probably played with them multiple times now, right? Both of those bands.
Yep, done.
Yeah. Was there ever an alternative? Like, did you have parents, for example, saying, you know, what are you going to do if this music thing doesn't work out?
Sort of, but not really. I mean, I think my parents just wanted me to do what made me happy. Although, at the time when the band first started, I was working behind a bar in a Mexican restaurant, and I had to start taking time off work because all the gigs that we were getting came on the weekends. So I remember my mum did say to me, well, if you dropped out of uni and now you're not working on the weekends because you're playing music, then you're going to have to do something during the week, go and volunteer somewhere or come and work in the factory where she worked, was making lounge furniture, which is very nice lounge furniture. And so I did that briefly, and then before I knew it, we were touring. And I mean, once we went on our first tour, we just kept getting more and more shows. So then, then we played on the radio, and my parents were very excited, and they thought I was going to be, you know, rich and famous rock star. They're still waiting for that bit.
Oh, nice. Awesome. You had a massive hit with Leaving Home, and that was in 1997.
Yep.
Does it feel weird that the crowds who sang along as 20-year-olds in 1997 are still leaving home as 47-year-olds?
Yeah, it's a strange thing, because I remember when we were writing that song, we'd first written that song, and then, you know, we were laughing about, oh, imagine if we're still playing this song in 10 years' time, you know? How funny would that be? But the thing about, and it goes for a lot of those songs off a slightly odd way, like when you're like watching people in the crowd and they're singing the songs back to you, it's like all of a sudden they have travelled back to their, you know, early adulthood or, you know, their teenager, whenever. It's like everyone is transported back to, including us, transported back to that time where that first happened. I mean, yeah, it's a bit of a buzz.
When you look up a band on Wikipedia, the members section can be quite lengthy, but Jebediah's is remarkably short.
Yeah.
So what's the secret to staying together?
Well, I think that's the key, isn't it? And I remember someone from another band, you know, just a local band we were playing a gig with, and one of them said to us, oh, like, you guys are gonna go far. All you got to do is stay together. And I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I've played in many other bands who have very long lists of musicians. I think at the other end of the scale is End of Fashion. I mean, I think we worked out I was the second, fourth, and 11th or 12th bass player in that band. Yeah, and I mean, since I've played in that band, I've played with like 4 other drummers and 2 other guitarists. You know, it's like, yeah, it's just like totally different ends of the spectrum.
So what was it that's kept you guys together?
Well, 2 of the guys are brothers, which, I mean, it's pretty hard to get rid of family. But it feels like we are a family. I mean, Chris and I have known each other since, well, he was 11 and I was 13. So, I mean, that's a pretty long friendship. I think it just came from, I mean, Chris and Kev and I were all part of a theatre company. And I mean, that group still meets up on occasion. You know, everyone's spread all over the world now. But yeah, I think that whole theatre company was pretty tight. And then I think, you know, us 3 came and did this music thing. And I don't know, I guess we sort of found like-minded, we grew up together, you know. We spent our entire 20s on the road, living in each other's pockets, you know, with like however many times it was that we'd, you know, have to share beds or, you know, all crammed into a room or, you know, I guess you get that much history together and it's just like you're kind of part of each other.
So is it true that you started out on guitar back in high school?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about your transition to bass.
Oh, well, I was playing so there's a group of my friends from my year group who we all come from the theatre company. And we'd started a band and Chris ended up joining that band as a second guitarist. And so then when him and Kev started their band, they didn't know any bass players and Chris was like, oh, do you want to play bass in our band? You can borrow my dad's bass guitar that he bought at Swap Meet or whatever. And that's how it happened.
So, and now are you strictly bass or you still pick up the guitar?
I rarely pick up a guitar. And I haven't really ever since I sort of started playing bass guitar. It might have just been the circumstance because, you know, we had a gig to, you know, we had to learn all these covers and it was a school ball at our old high school that we got this gig. So, I mean, it was just such intensive rehearsing and practicing that I just got swept up in it and I needed to, you know, practice lots. And so I just never and then, you know, before we knew it, we were playing shows and on the road and I just never really went back to guitar. I mean, everyone plays guitar, don't they? The world doesn't need another guitarist. It's like all guitarists think they're bass players, right?
So what was your first bass? Tell us about the first one. It was a borrowed one.
Yeah, it was a borrowed one. I actually ended up buying it off Chris's dad. It was a Yamaha. It was actually quite a good bass. But I think for my 21st birthday, I'd seen an old 70s Fender Jazz in the local music shop. And I was like, I want that one. And so for my 21st birthday, my parents just told everyone I'd just, you know, chip in some money because she wants to buy this bass guitar. So that was that.
Do you still have that one?
I do, yes. That travels with me as my spare guitar and has done ever since. So we're recording a Someday Shambles and there was like a sort of dead spot in the neck where we weren't getting one of the notes wasn't sustaining enough, and so I borrowed a bass from a shop from the bass player, I think, in Melbourne, and they sent this bass out to the studio, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever played. And so I just rang them up and said, how much for this, because I'm not sending it back to you. So I've had that's a 1969 jazz, and that's what I've played ever since. That thing is amazing. It practically plays itself.
Oh, beautiful.
They're magic.
I was going to say, I think it's a Fender Jazz that I see in your hands in most of the video clips.
Yeah.
And you've got a Mustang with you there today. Are you now strictly jazz bass or strictly Fender?
I am actually, all my guitars are Fender guitars. Yeah. I got a old 70s Music Master that I found in London, and I got a couple of Starcasters. You know those ones, the semi-hollow body with the F-holes? They got like humbuckers in them. They're amazing. They look awesome. They sound awesome, but they're quite it's quite bunky to play, and it's so heavy. I have a real love-hate relationship with it. Like, they're so beautiful. They sound so awesome, but then everything else is like, it's heavy, and you know, pros and cons of everything, right?
How about your rig? Head, cabinets, pedals. What else do you use?
Look, pedals are an on and off thing and have been ever since I started playing, but I just feel life is easier without them. And in a band with 2 guitars, and I mean, Chris has like 8 bands worth of pedals in his setup, but I really don't need any. So just less for me to lug around. And my speakers are speakers I've used since the 90s. So one of them's a Ampeg 15 and a 10. Like in the same cab, and then the other one is like it's a JBL 15-inch with a like homemade box, because I think the stage tech found the speaker, but it didn't have a cabinet, so he got someone to build a cabinet for it. I still use it.
Okay, and what are you running that from? What head?
I just have I only recently got a Aguilar, you know, those little, it's like a tone hammer.
Like the 500?
I think it's like a 700 maybe. I think I remember that number being on it. I mean, I don't know that much about like the Fender Super Bassmen that they released, and they have many years ago, are the most beautiful amp to play through. But it's like, they're so heavy. It's too heavy to put on a plane, you know, without paying excess. And also I have trouble lifting one of those by myself. So, I mean, it's sort of, the Aguilar sounds amazing and is so convenient. It's like, I've got it in a tiny briefcase. It's like 5 kilos. It's amazing.
Yeah, right. Perfect.
Yeah.
And nice and compact too.
Yeah.
So Ness, you always look like you're having so much fun on stage. Can you describe the feeling that you get when you're up there, bass in hand, doing what you love?
It's like, I'm not sure if I can describe the feeling, but it sort of definitely fluctuates between like just being completely like immersed in the music and not really aware of anything going on. And then there's other times when I'm like so aware of, you know, if missile's going to come flying at the stage, or, you know, like there's about to be a stage invader, or, you know, like I'm just so aware of like, you know, if Chris's lead comes out, you know, I'm like aware on all the little things that make up a gig and being on stage.
Tell me, what makes someone a great bass player?
Feel, I reckon. Well, I mean, at least that is for me, and that might come from the fact that I don't really have any training, and like I'm probably not the most sort of technically proficient player. So like my approach to bass playing is just all about feeling it, and so I guess that's what I kind of am drawn to when I hear other people playing.
Who are your favourite players?
Mostly like when I'm thinking of like bass players, I think I mostly just think of rhythm sections. So like the rhythm section of the Smiths and the rhythm section of Suede are like really like Stone Roses. I mean, I guess this is all quite English vibes. And maybe I'm sort of attracted to that because those bands, it's always like, you know, Morrissey and Johnny Marr and like, you know, Brett Anderson and Bernard Butler, or, you know, like the focus is always on the singer and the guitarist. And so maybe that I'm really drawn to like how amazing those rhythm sections are, and they don't really get any credit because everyone's focused on all the brilliant things that the other members of the band are doing.
Yeah, so you're throwing some light on the unrecognised parts of
Yeah,
those.
I feel like maybe that's why I'm attracted to those kind of, and I feel like the bass is like, I mean, I think you can be the best bass player in the world, but if you're not locked in with the drums, then it's there's something a bit missing.
Any Aussie bass players that stand out for you that you've seen or played with?
There's a really amazing bass player called Grace Barbe. She's from she's in Perth. I think someone told me she was playing with the Cat Empire now. She's like an amazing artist, and her bass playing is just, it blows my mind. It's like, yeah, it's so different from what I do. That, yeah, I just like, I can't even get my head around it, but I'm just so impressed by it. But yeah, she's like, overall, like her feel is amazing.
What's your most pinch yourself, I can't believe this is happening, rock and roll moment or memory?
Whew, gee. I feel like, I don't know if it was a like pinch myself moment, but I definitely remember playing at the, we played at NRL State of Origin game once. I think it must have been at Homebush. And I went, I'm not even into NRL. Like that kind of thing is so like, it's not a real gig. It's not like, it's not really what you do, but you just get opportunities to do these random things. And I just remember thinking, and so we were miming, like the vocals were live, but the band were miming, and like, I just remember coming off stage and Chris and I were like, we just got paid to jump up on a stage in the middle of an oval amongst, you know, how many 40,000 people or whatever, and jump around and pretend to play our instruments. It's like, how bizarre, but what fun.
Yeah, definitely bizarre. I mean, you hear a lot of artists who push back against that, and I mean, I've got friends who have done it, and I know it's not an option really to push back, but were you guys okay with doing that? You just kind of went with the flow?
I mean, I think we were very idealistic when we first started out, and we turned down lots of things because we, you know, we thought it wasn't cool or thought we were selling out or whatever. And then, I don't know, I think about 10 or 15 years in, it's like, you know what, we've been doing this for so long. People either love us or they don't. I don't think what we do now is going to change anyone's minds about what they think of us, and like, who cares? Let's just, you know, if something gets offered and it could be fun, or if we haven't done it before, or, you know, it's a new experience, well, why not? And I think we're a bit more relaxed about that sort of stuff now. And I mean, you know, that doesn't always work out, but at least you gave it a go.
Yeah, take the experience.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. What advice would you give to aspiring new bass players?
Just enjoy it. Like, I can't think of anything else that is more joyous than being in a room with other people, turning everything up loud and just making noise and hearing it all come together. And I mean, that, like, I have just as much fun in a rehearsal room as I do on stage. I think, like, yeah, I feel like it is a real, not a privilege to play music, or maybe it is a privilege. I mean, I just, like, anyone can do it if you want, you know. You just got to put the time in to get it all happening.
All right. Tell me about OIKS. Firstly, interesting title.
Oh, yep.
How did the title come about?
I think Kev heard an interview that Tim Rogers did, and he referred to us as a band of OIKS. I feel like, I think it's an English term, I'm pretty sure, and I feel like it has been, like, it's mostly used as a derogatory term, but I'm not sure. I feel like Kev sort of feels like maybe it's more like a term of endearment. I'm not really sure, but I really love the way that the word looks. I think it's like a great looking word, aesthetically pleasing. So I'm happy to go with it.
We'll take it as a compliment. We'll make it a compliment. So tell me, what can people expect? What can fans expect from the album?
Well, it's definitely us. I feel like it's unmistakably Jebediah sounding. I feel like, I mean, this is the first record we've ever made entirely in the studio. So the guys, Kevin, Brett, flew over. We worked with our mate Dave Parkin for this one, and yeah, it's the first album we've made since we've been living on opposite sides of the country, and yeah, so we wrote everything in the studio and recorded. So there's definitely songs there that we've all played on, but we might not necessarily have all played that song together at the same time. I mean, we definitely were jamming in the studio and pulled the songs together that way, but yeah, so I think it's like, I mean, it's very exciting, the whole writing process. If it just felt like, it just felt like the songs were just like forming out of thin air. I remember every night just driving home from the studio and just being so buzzed by what we'd been doing in the studio. I mean, it had been a long time since we'd written some songs, so I mean, I guess maybe the buzz was just all in my head.
How about writing bass lines? So you were writing your bass lines in the studio. Do you have an approach to coming up with your bass lines?
Not really. I mean, there's songs like Motivation. The bass track on the album is actually my guide track, because when it came to recording the bass track, I couldn't get the same, like, I just wasn't in the same headspace that I was when we were sort of pulling together a demo of that song, and I just didn't feel like I could get anything as good as what I'd done on the demo take. So I think me and Parko went through it, and I reckon we like pulled out about 4 notes and maybe shifted 1 note, and that, other than that, that is my guide track. And then other songs I definitely would have sort of had ideas for that we, went from the writing process, that I maybe needed to like work up a bit. So just sitting at home in my lounge room right here, and sort of fine-tuning stuff.
While the recording process was happening, so you're going home and doing that at the same time?
Yeah, and then, I mean, there was big gaps in between the recordings because, Kev and Brett were, going home, and then they'd come back for another week when we were like, oh, we've all got a week off. We can book another week in the studio and keep working on the songs and stuff. So, yeah, just in between, and, just whenever I got a vibe for playing, and so I'll work on some stuff. But yeah, I think the majority of what I've played probably would have been, at least the bones of it would have been all kind of done during the writing.
I love gum up the bearings. What does it mean? Where did that come from? It sounds like a euphemism.
It comes from the fact that our guitarist Chris is a very keen skateboarder, and for a lot of the recording process he was skating around the neighbourhood and around the car park and whatnot, so he always would rock up to the studio with his skateboard. And Kev had said, I think it was Kev that said something about, I don't know, like doing something with his skateboard, and Chris is like, I can't do that, it'll gum up the bearings. And then that, I think Kev liked that phrase, and it's like, oh, that's a good title for a song. So I think that then informed that song, and so I guess
turned it into a hit, something as simple as that.
Yeah, which is quite often how things come up or end up with names, or
That's very cool. I like that. And I believe that you're going to be touring nationally with the album release?
Yes, which is very exciting, but also a bit nerve-wracking because that means we're going to have to learn some more of the songs that we wrote and recorded and have probably forgotten all about.
Well, you're probably in the best position to do that better than most people, so I'm sure you'll nail it.
Well, I'll let you know if I need any help.
Oh, thanks. I'll transcribe it for you, no worries. Oh, fantastic. And so, do you know where the tour's going? Is it everywhere?
Yes, I think it's pretty much everywhere. It'll be all capital cities, and so I think we're doing, Darwin and a couple of shows in Tassie, and then I think there'll be some regionals or, pretty sure there'll be some regional shows. And can you run it across the bottom of the screen like they do on a television?
We can, yeah, I can do that.
Amazing. Technology. Oh, who doesn't love it?
Awesome. So the album OIKS is released on April 12th, and at the time of recording this, there are 3 singles available from it, being Rubber Man, Motivation, and my favourite, Gum Up the Bearings. I encourage everyone to check it out and the whole back catalogue to hear Vanessa's awesome work. And Ness, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for being in my house.
Thank you for having us in your house. Awesome.
Anytime.